Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here at Gobekli Tepe. I have not seen anyone do any live streams from Gobekli Tepe yet, so I figured it would be kind of cool to do it. It is quite windy here, but I'll do my best to be heard. Make sure to comment, make sure to like, make sure to do things. I've got a full report coming up in the near future from Gobekli Tepe once I get back to the United States or Canada. I am currently, of course, by Sanliurfa in Turkey, and this is just a magnificent site. I'm not crazy about the overhang and everything that they built around it, but this is probably one of the most important, I would say the most important historical site in the world that we know of so far, of course. And it's just astonishing to actually be here and see it for yourself. You can see behind me actually the Pillar 43 in Enclosure D. I don't know how well you can hear me right now, it is pretty windy. But you can see the famous pillar where you can find the famous bags, so to say. And now I realize that most people that are watching this right now are asleep. It is quite early here. And so hopefully some people in Europe and some people in Australia and so on are watching. I see 9 people out of 133,000 people watching right now, so more people would be better. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. Again, for those that are just tuning in, I'm live here at Gobekli Tepe. So send in your comments. I haven't seen any comments yet and we're almost 2 minutes in. It's kind of strange. I can't really answer any questions without questions, guys, so anything is appreciated at this point. But you can see one of the main parts of the structure. Zara Drew says, what is the significance of the site? Well, the significance of the site is it would be most likely the oldest known site in the world, though there's a lot of contesting around that, and I actually don't agree it's the oldest. But as far as the mainstream's accepting, this is the oldest ancient site in the world. It was built around 9600 BC. This site is dated back to the end of the Younger Dryas period. It has reliefs on some of the stones, including the one you see over there with the bags and correlation with Orion's belt. The bags you could see from all over the world in different ancient cultures from different ancient epochs. And it's astonishing because, you know, for a long time they said the oldest structures in the world, the oldest examples of civilizations, I should say, were from around the period of 3000 BC, around the time of Stonehenge. But we now know with places like Gobekli Tepe that of course is not the case. We now know, as a matter of fact, that obviously you see the structure here. This goes back to 9600 BC. This predates Stonehenge by about 7,000 years. And it was a complete smack in the face of mainstream academics who were claiming for years, hanging on to that belief that there was only civilized people around the epoch of 3000. But I find it interesting because still to this day, most seem to think that for some reason that this site was built by hunter-gatherers. But hunter-gatherers, consider that for a second, just for 1 second. They couldn't farm. They were basically cavemen, but they had really sophisticated abilities to carve out stone, pull up these massive structural pillars. And then you also see around them not you know, animals cut into stone. The stone was cut around the animals. That is very sophisticated stone carving, and I find it enormously important to what we at least know about the history of ancient human civilization. So again, for those just tuning in, I'm at Gobekli Tepe. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. Send in your questions. I'll do the best to answer them. Of course, I have 25 people out of 133,000 people watching, so make sure to share it. It helps with the algorithm. Let's see, the patrichos, was it built by Swiderian culture? There's a lot of contesting about who built the structures. I cannot answer that question because we don't know. I would have to be assuming, but you know, there's been a lot of theories thrown around, especially regarding the potential of hunter-gatherers, as I mentioned, and just people from around the area that, you know, they say this is the breadbasket of civilization, right? It's literally Mesopotamia. This is between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, and to add to that, this is a 3-day walk from Mount Ararat, where they said Noah parked his ark on top of the mountain. It's interesting because in its own way it is an ark. You have animals on all of these pillars, or most of them, and it's almost like these are the animals of the world that they knew when they buried this. No one knows why, but they buried this structure multiple times, and then at the end just filled it in completely for future people to find. No one knows why. It is very interesting, and it adds more mystery and more questions to the already incredibly mysterious and questionable site of Gobekli Tepe. You can see over here there's a part of the newer enclosures that were built. You look at the level, they probably filled it in and then they built more pillars over here. And yes, those are the newer ones, but it's interesting because I would certainly not say it's primitive, but the newer work is less sophisticated and the older is more sophisticated, and that is exactly what we've been talking about handing down information over the ages. I see Press for Truth tuned in. What time is it there, Dan? Pretty late, I'm pretty sure. But for those just tuning in, I'm here at Gobekli Tepe live. Make sure to press like if you haven't already, and share and send in your questions, and super chats are very much appreciated as always. Helps out a lot. We aren't making money here at WAM anymore. But you could see these are the main largest pillars, and they're some of the oldest again and most sophisticated. And if you look real closely, you could see arms and elbows on these pillars. I'll go back over here because you could see what looks like a fox. Now again, I'm going to be posting a full documentary style video at a later time. But Dan says 1 a.m. I'm closing out my bachelor party. Well, congratulations, Dan. I'm happy for you. Here we have what looks like a fox. I think it is a fox. And then you see kind of what looks like an elbow going around it, and it comes out there, and you could see what looks like hands, which a lot of people say it looks almost like these pillars are the reliefs of humans or something, where the elbows wrap around and you see hands where the side of the pillars face the front. This is also, interestingly enough, astrologically aligned to, well, and astronomically aligned as well. It's what they call sacred geometry. It's matched to the Cygnus constellation, and as well as that, parts of the pillars seem to allude to Orion's belt, pretty much out in the open. I'm actually going to go to that spot right now. I'm amazed that my internet's working so well right now. It's better than walking around Las Vegas. It says a lot. But for those just tuning in, I'm here at Gobekli Tepe in Turkey, and I we'll take your questions, send in what you want to know, and I want to go back over here for a moment because I want to show you guys probably what I find the most interesting of the whole site, and there's a lot to be interested in here. But I'm going to turn the camera around, and here you see pillar 43 in enclosure D, and this I find to be one of the most significant because there are those bags. See that? People say they're not bags or buckets, they're grain things, whatever, but you see them all over the world. And you see that bird creature carrying what looks like a globe. They say it aligns to Orion's belt as well. And the scorpion and bird below are finally in view once again after being recovered for quite a significant period of time. So I'm glad that I came here and was able to actually see that with my own eyes. I'm gonna zoom out here. But again, it is quite incredible. I don't know how good the video is live, but I'm doing my best here to go live. I haven't seen anyone go live from Gobekli Tepe yet, so Try my best. I do have to do some navigating here, so I don't bump into a whole bunch of people. The tourists, they come in droves from vans. But Luke Johnson says, this is amazing, Josh. Congrats and thanks. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Harrison RM says, video looks great, mate. Thank you. I'm guessing there's quite a few people from Australia and New Zealand currently watching. Let me just try to navigate a little bit here. It is a little bit windy, so sorry if you can't hear me at the moment. Make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already and share it. It helps with the algorithm. Of course, yeah, Europe and the UK and all that, I'm sure. I realized when I went live that I'm probably going live when most people in the United States and Canada are in bed. But apparently not Dan from Press for Truth, who is finishing off his bachelor party and for some reason watching me live at Gobekli Tepe. Get back to your bachelor party, Dan. Here you see more examples of animals on these pillars. Again, this is considered, I don't actually believe it's the oldest, but according to mainstream, this is the oldest site in the world, and it's right by, well, Mount Ararat. Interesting, isn't it, that these older sites are near such an important biblical site. And also, I want to also mention here, and I think this is important, that there are more sites being found all over the region that have these T-shaped pillars, and I think we're about to find out some really important news soon. I am going to be going to a very little known site where they found other pillars, and almost no one has documented yet, so stay tuned for that. But I'm going to be getting videos up on Gobekli Tepe that are far more sophisticated, I guess you could say, kind of like the older reliefs on or in this structure. Adajal ACR says, hope they don't get destroyed. I certainly hope not. The wind is pretty bad, and they've already destroyed some of it by putting up this stupid board rock, but they saw the opportunity in tourism, you know. And I mean, everywhere you go in San Urfa nearby, you see signs that say Gobekli Tepe this way, Gobekli Tepe that way. There's a campaign, it's called Gobekli Tepe 2019. So there's definitely a lot of stuff happening regarding this site, because again, this is one of the most mysterious sites in the world. I actually find it, well, it's hard to say. It would be tied, for me anyway, with the pyramids as far as how incredibly mysterious it truly is. Here you see behind me the hills around it. You could see that it's a very, very beautiful site outside of this as well. And I mean, it's interesting that, you know, it took people digging around here in the 60s, farmers, to find the first examples of the T-shaped pillars. And then we see back in the 1990s, Klaus Schmidt really take up the excavation, and so much of this was uncovered. And I don't, it's almost an emotional experience for me. It's so incredible. The level of importance of this site it's amazing. Make sure to send in your questions. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. Help this video be seen, because not a lot of people are watching out of 133,000 subscribers. Anyway, let's continue on. I saw one comment here that says all ancient civilization ends with the USA. I don't know. There's empires rise and fall, right? Here we are at another part of the structure. There's a famous block behind me that is completely broken, unfortunate, because they, I believe, were as big as the ones you see in the far background. Very big, very large. And you can see pieces of it on the ground below. Press for Truth says, how old is it? Well, they say it's as old as 12,000 years old, but I think it's been known that about 75% of the site is still underground. 75%, and it's been known of since, I believe, the early 60s. So it says a lot about, you know, how slow people are to kind of get to work here. It's about 12,000 years old. So it goes back almost to the time of the flood, about to the time of the flood. It's around the end of the Younger Dryas period. Voitance is literally Holy Bible stuff. It really is. It's one of the most significant sites in the world, and it's almost an emotional feeling being here. It really is. You can feel it. The significance of it is enormous. It's good to see so many tourists around here. It gets a little crowded, but it's pretty amazing. Make sure to send in your questions and press like if you haven't already, like I said. Make sure to share it. Again, I realize most people on the west side of the world are in bed right now, but I had to go live while I was at Gobekli Tepe. I'm going to the Sanliurfa Museum later today. I've really enjoyed traveling around Turkey. It's an amazing country. It's beautiful. Zarathustra suppression. I believe there's a combination of suppression and stubbornness from the academics. It depends on who we're talking about, because I don't think all the archaeologists are suppressing things. I think a lot of them are just incredibly stubborn in their view, their worldview that they've clung onto for so long. But I don't want to speak for everyone, because obviously this site is found. It's taken a long time to excavate, but people have recognized it and acknowledged it, and now it's a very famous site here in Turkey. We're close to the Syrian border, let me add. We're close to, we're not that far away from Aleppo. So, I mean, this is one of the things. We need to protect these areas, and we need to protect this region in general. I don't mean by military, obviously. I'm totally against that. I just mean by individuals need to stop falling for the fear, and stop falling for the wars, and stop falling for the destruction of so many of these sites, because Iraq and Syria, so many sites have been destroyed there, and it makes me sick. And it is, some of the nicest people here. Seriously, I've just bumped into so many people here that are so incredible. I drove across the whole country from Istanbul all the way through Derinkuyu and now to Gobekli Tepe by Sanliurfa, close to Syria. And, I don't know, it wasn't what I expected. What you see on TV and what you see on the ground are two different things. I'm not saying it's completely safe here, but I would say that it's mostly safe here from what I've seen. Maybe not so much if you get involved in politics. But here is the overhang. You can see behind me. It's pretty large, and I am kind of frustrated with how much destruction the actual construction caused. Press Richard says, are you meeting up with Friedman soon? I'm here with Josh Friedman. He is somewhere on this boardwalk here. I don't know where. He's hanging around here somewhere, though. He's been helping me film a lot, which I definitely appreciate. Oh, well, Dan's wondering where you are on the video, so here he is. Yeah.
Hey, guys.
He's just finishing his bachelor party, and he's like up late and watching a stream about Gobekli Tepe, as one does.
Congratulations, Dan.
Yeah, congratulations. Again, for those just tuning in, Dan says hi. For those just tuning in,
Turkey, Dan.
Yeah, come out to Turkey. Climb Mount Ararat. So, for those just tuning in, we're here at Gobekli Tepe. It is a beautiful site. I mean, there's a lot of pollution. I'll have to admit, you can see quite a bit of pollution in the background, but it's a beautiful site. Lots of rolling hills. Not at all what I thought it would be. Obviously, the desert's slowly encroaching the land, and it's getting a bit drier, but it's really a beautiful area. The fact that I know better, I would say that it seems almost like Stone Age type of hills, where you look around, you see the black rock everywhere as well. It just reminds me of something out of, some show about cavemen. I don't know, but as we know, they claimed that these ancient people, they weren't a quote-unquote civilization, that they were strictly hunter-gatherers, but I don't buy that for a second, that hunter-gatherers, people that couldn't farm, who weren't able to civilize, somehow got together and built a structure, and then after a couple thousand years of use, buried it for no known reason, and then threw down or picked up their spears again for thousands of years, about 7,000 years. It's absurd. It's absurd. So people, this is what they claim. This is what they claim. So essentially, before the site was found, they believed that you know, people, hunter-gatherers, threw down their spears, stopped throwing mud at each other, stopped climbing trees, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to build the pyramids and Stonehenge. You know, this incredibly sophisticated architecture. Maybe not Stonehenge so much, but of course the pyramids, incredibly sophisticated. And then they found this site. Of course, they had pushed it back further than 3000 BC, but they cling to their view so stubbornly and said, no, this site is by hunter-gatherers. Everything we said before was right. This is just an anomaly. Well, now they're finding them all over the place, but that leads me to this point. So before they said they threw down their spears and built the pyramids, now they say they threw down their spears around 9600 BC, decided, I'm just going to build this structure, as they call it, a temple, the world's first temple, I don't know. And then they covered it for no reason after a couple thousand years of use, picked up their spears again, and held them for thousands of years, and then you know, 7,000 years later, threw them down again and built a bunch of incredibly sophisticated structures. It doesn't add up, and it's not my fault, guys, that I'm questioning this. It's just so absurd that it's hard not to. I mean, the mainstream view of this place is just so ridiculous. So I think this is why we need to ask more questions. And as far as ask more questions, I mean, keep digging. It's been since 1960s and they've only uncovered this. 75% is still said to be underground. They found it on ground penetrating radar. Why have they not done more work in digging? They say it costs money. Well, they spend a lot of money on military. They spend a lot of money on bombing people. How about they spend some money on, I don't know, digging up the site better and allowing the public to know the truths about the, you know, origins of ancient human civilizations, or the continuation, if you will. It depends on what your view is. But nonetheless, there's a lot of questions that can be answered underground here that have not yet been answered. It's frustrating, to say the least, that people spend so much time, you know, blowing people up and not so much time, I don't know, spending a 1% of that money possibly on, you know, finding answers to these incredible mysteries. Or, as I've mentioned a few times, finding more questions to ask as they dig, which I'm sure they would. I think it's going to be a while until we find more answers, but nonetheless, we're here at Gobekli Tepe. For those just tuning in, make sure to press like on this video if you haven't already. Luke Johnson says, Josh, are you going to visit the other place, Graham Hancock's Magician of the Gods, Gadong Padang? Yes, I do want to visit that. That's in Indonesia. I've been dying to visit that. That's considered possibly the oldest pyramid in the world, but people aren't sure because they have done ground penetrating radar there and found chambers, and they found steps, and they found megalithic sites on the top of what they call a mountain. I'm not going to say and get behind it and say 100% that it is a pyramid, but there's a lot of evidence, and even the Indonesian government has looked into it and attempted to dig it up, and then suddenly just seized excavations. So yeah, Gunung Padang, yeah, that's it. Thanks, Conrad Bush. Thank you for the comment. You see here, there's a lot of animals on these pillars. I find this really interesting because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it's kind of like an ark in itself. We're close to where Noah's Ark was said to have landed on Mount Ararat. And here we are, and it's almost like an ark to the ages. The ability to maintain the life that lived around the area at the time. They found a lot of animal bones in here as well, and you see all these animals on these pillars for the ages to see down the line, like they were trying to create some kind of stone arch for the history books, or ark for the history books. I think it's significant. Again, there's many more sites around this region, much like Gobekli Tepe, that they're just starting to find. One that they've known about for a while called Karahan Tepe, and it took until I think about less than a month ago, almost like 3 weeks ago, they started finally excavating the site. So I hope to bring you information from there if I'm allowed in. I don't know. It's not open to the public, but we'll see what happens. I want to get there and I want to see, and the only way to find out is to try, and there's no one to call online. I've looked like crazy, so I'm kind of stuck just going there and hoping for the best. It's on the way to Mount Nemrut anyway, where I want to go as well, where the ancient heads are and the statues. Let's see what the comments are. We got a few things. I'm not going to answer the political comments right now. It's not necessary. Paolo Bonandine, hey, how's it going, man? He says, hi, Josh. Are you going to Nemrut? You asked at the perfect time. Yes, I absolutely am. in the next couple days. I plan to go there, and from there I have to go straight to Istanbul because I'm running out of time. But most important sites that I wanted to see was here at Gobekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, which I haven't gone to yet, and Derinkuyu, which we did a video at the other day. And I cannot wait to bring you that. But again, you guys have to wait until we are back in the United States or Canada or wherever for that video to come out. Because right now I'm just trying to gather footage and gather, well, my own studies, I guess, my own research. And kind of every time I walk around this boardwalk here, I see new things that I totally missed before. I see an incredible relief over there of a lizard. And I can't really show you. There's a bee trying to go to my ear. I can't really show you up close right now. You know what, I'm gonna try. It's not gonna be very good quality. But this is really interesting because, again, they carved the rock around it. This wasn't carved into the rock, it was carved around it. Look at that, that's 3D. That's incredible. I mean, these are people that had never carved anything in their life, never lifted anything large in their life. They essentially were hunter-gatherers who didn't know how to farm, and then they just build this. Why are the mainstream views so absurd? Like, at least they could be at least somewhat believable. I don't believe it for a second. These are really well carved out stones, really well polished. You see over here, let me bring it over here, more animals on these stones. And a lot of them represent the stars and align with Orion's belt, etc. And then they represent the animals in the region at the time, where you could find bones buried in the ground around here. Now let me remind you guys that this site is still underground, and there's a ton of stuff under this stuff, but they're also worried about digging some of it up because they think that possibly these pillars would be destroyed if they did, but they didn't mind building this tourist boardwalk where they did destroy parts of the monuments. So it's hard to say what the real answers are there. You could see the higher up areas in the distance that are the newer areas. So the lower down, of course, that you go, the older it gets. The higher up you go, the newer it gets. And the less sophisticated it gets, the higher you go. You can see up on this hill, I went up there, there's an overhang up there as well. There's some pillars, not super impressive. I got some video of it. It's what's down here that I find most important. And again, I'd come from enclosure D, which is over here, a few minutes ago on this video, where you find the bags and the bird holding the world, Orion's belt, the scorpion, and another bird. Really, really incredible. And you see evidence of grain around it, which again, if anything, if they're illustrating bundles of grain, wouldn't that also note that they were agricultural? I mean, but questions are too much these days for a lot of the mainstream academic archaeologists. I'm not going to put them all into one place because a lot of people disagree, but I would say that there is a large amount of people, a consensus, that is just regurgitating ideas that have been passed down for a long time, and no one's willing to question it because their careers get damaged if they do. But it was almost emotional when I first showed up here. It's just such a incredible place to actually see with my own two eyes. Just to see it online and to see it in person are two different things, guys. It's just not the same. I didn't know what it really was like around here. I've seen a million videos of Gobekli Tepe. I've seen a million documentaries, and being here on the ground is just incredible. I highly recommend people come out here. I highly recommend people come to Turkey and check out some of these sites. I mean, there's a lot to be seen in Turkey. There's so many ancient sites, and while I'm not going to say that it's like safe, I'm going to say that it's probably not what you expect from television. You're not just going to get blown up most likely if you go out here. We're on the Syrian border, and it's like really close to it anyway, and it's a very nice, relaxing area. I would just recommend, again, don't get into politics here, but it's a really beautiful area, and there's so much to see. There's Derinkuyu, there's Mount Nemrut, there's Bagkazal, I think it's called, close to the north, close to the Black Sea, up north, which is basically where the ancient Lion's Gate is. I skipped that out on this trip. There's Troy. There's other mythical, quote-unquote, cities being uncovered that were talked about by people like Homer. I mean, it's time to start questioning or rewriting history a bit, guys, because we're obviously finding a lot of contradictions to what we thought we knew about these sites. And that means more research, and some people are a little lazy and would rather say, I've been right this whole time. I'm stubborn and I refuse to change my views. At Dejal ACR says if this was Syria, this place would already be blown the F up. I don't know. There's still a lot of places in Syria that are pretty much not blown up, but I agree that it would be more likely, probably. I mean, there's been a lot of amazing sites that have been blown up in the last few years in Syria that make me sick. A lot of Sumerian sites, and I believe it was ISIS that went and started using sledgehammers on a bunch of the Sumerian reliefs of the guy holding the bag. Again, we just mentioned the bag over there in enclosure D, pillar 43. So that makes me sick, but that's why I want to go to Syria. I want to go to Iraq as well for those reasons. I want to see some of these places with my own eyes because I'm worried, optimistic and worried at the same time about this region. I don't know. I can't tell history. I just know that the military-industrial complex likes to cause problems, and there's good and evil within mankind, and one is going to prevail. But I don't know, permanently, I don't know, but I feel like one way or another, we're gonna see it go one way or another. That's all I can say. That's literally my prediction, which is as vague as it could possibly be. I see a comment here from Rian von Rensburg. It says, hey Josh, thanks for bringing us this. Love to go, okay, there sometime. Do you think the site ties with the Anunnaki? I don't know. There's a lot of false premises by Zechariah Sitchin in his books. I'll get into another one. I don't want to go through a whole debate here, but I believe that he was on the right track in many cases, but I think there was a lot that was just rather assumptive. There's a bunch of tour groups coming this way, so I'm going to walk this way. Velvet Thunder says, sorry Josh, just got here early in the UK. Yeah, it is quite early. So if you're just tuning in, I'm here at Gobekli Tepe, and it is an absolutely incredible site, and likely one of the most important, as far as historical megalithic type sites go, one of the most important in the world. And it's just a beautiful thing to look at. It's a beautiful place to be, and I'm so excited to be here. If you just joined us, again, make sure to press like on the video if you haven't already. And we are here live at Gobekli Tepe, and it is incredible. Let me turn around here. There you have the main pillar. Well, you have pillar 43 over there, right where my finger is there. In enclosure D, and that's where you find the bags and Orion's belt and all that kind of stuff. Turin Turambar says, could it be the place of the Garden of Eden? I don't think this place is, but a lot of people talk about it being around Turkey, but I don't know. I don't know. Make sure to send super chats for questions to be answered. It's appreciated very much. We have a hard time reaching people these days, and I realize it's the middle of the night, so but you can only get so many people online, even at Gobekli Tepe, when it's middle of the night in most, like where most of our viewers are. But I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. I appreciate everyone in the UK, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, all those places that are watching right now. It's appreciated for sure. You could see more than just pillars here, by the way. You could see below me. I don't know what that is. I have no idea, but it's pretty well carved. A lot of impressive things to look at here. Let me just go through some of these comments. Victoria Lap Life, or Victory Lap Life, yeah, not Victoria. Victory Lap Life says 3:35 a.m. Chicago. I appreciate the site footage. Going back to bed. Have a good sleep. Yeah, it's a little late in a lot of places. Rian van Rensburg says South Africa. I wouldn't mind going there. Be careful, of course. I'm always a little cautious of some places that I go. Maz says, hi mate, 6:30 p.m. here in Australia. Yeah, it's a perfect time for Australia, that's for sure. And I don't always get to go live when it's a good time for people in Australia, so I'm glad to see you guys tuned in. Some of our biggest amounts of viewers are in Australia. Cartridge Game Geek says, I'm Aussie and watch. Hope I get to go sometime. I highly suggest it. It's actually not overly expensive to get to Turkey in general, but you're probably going to have to deal with a really long flight in a small seat. But I think everything like this whole journey, this is absolutely worth it. I mean, again, for those just tuning in, this is Gobekli Tepe, and it's considered to be around 12,000 years old, and it completely predates what we know as ancient civilization, what has been spoken of for all those years. And considering this site, it basically is a slap in the face to what we've been told about, you know, things like, a good example is Stonehenge being one of the oldest major megalithic sites, other than like the unsophisticated dolmens and tumulus. Obviously, we know that that's obviously not true. Big thank you to Harrison RM for the Australian $50. I really appreciate that. That helps out a lot here at WHAM. And again, it's kind of what is helping us do this on a daily basis. Maybe not so daily when I'm traveling, but I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. It means a great deal to have the support. So I'm gonna get around a tour group here so I can give you guys better views of the structure. As you can see behind me, it's a beautiful area, beautiful area. So as I walk, yeah, so we've been really demonetized lately. So there's a $50 and $1 even. It makes such a huge difference here at WHAM. It means that we could go to these sites, and I plan to go to Iraq soon. Now this was completely paid for by an awesome donor. So I really appreciate that. Fred has helped me out huge by bringing me out here, and it means a lot. It really does. And I plan to go to Iraq. I want to go to Syria as well. Now that I'm down here right by the border, it makes me want to go. A lot of you might think I'm crazy, but anyway, a lot of people aren't willing to go to these sites. And I think it's important to see them. And those donations, those super chats, those pledges make a huge world of difference and allow us to get here. You see that below me? There's those famous bags. That's what probably the most important part of the whole site. David Mock says, "Don't give up." I'm not going to give up. I'll never give up. This is too amazing to be able to see these with my own two eyes. I don't care if I'm homeless. This is still amazing, you know. You have these incredibly well-built pillars. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. Beautiful countryside as well. Turkey's incredible. I never would have thought it was like this. Everyone's scared of this place, and I understand where the fear comes from, and to some points it might be somewhat legitimate in certain ways, but I don't know. I feel very safe here. I've driven across the whole country so far, and I've seen nothing but nice people. There's been language barriers, but anyway. Let me turn around the camera for a moment and get some good footage here. Front-facing footage for all of you guys to see. There is Pillar 43 in Enclosure D. Try not to drop my phone in there. Don't want to fall down there. Also, stay tuned for my Dare Who You, because that was ridiculously incredible. Climbing through tunnels that were in some cases maybe 3.5 feet at the most. And I was crawling up, my butt was up against the ground, and my knees were to my chest, and my head was hunched over, hitting the top of the tunnel, and I was just scooting through. And it was really, really difficult to do, and I'm really looking forward to bringing that video to you. David Mock says, "Love without fear." Live without fear, love without, yeah, whichever way, I completely agree. I really appreciate the $2 super chat, David. That's awesome. Makes a huge difference, like I said. Really appreciate it. And guys, $1 or more a month is all it takes to keep us alive and allow us to go to these amazing sites like Gobekli Tepe. Again, a 12,000-year-old site, and they're still finding stuff underground. 75% is still underground. Think about that significance. It's amazing. This predates ancient civilization 7,000 years earlier than they thought. And everyone should give a big reward to people like Brian Forrester for talking about it for so long, and Graham Hancock for predicting all of this. Marlon Beast and $10 super chat. Love your coverage of ancient archaeology. Keep it coming. I certainly will, and that definitely helps me do so. I so much appreciate the help that you guys give. I couldn't do it without you guys. Don't forget that. I'm doing this, I'm here because of my viewers. You guys make it possible for me to be here. I'm mostly demonetized on YouTube right now, and my audience has been cut down 80% overall, but I'm still here. I'm still, thanks to a donor who sent me here. You guys are awesome, and I'm raising money right now to go to, well, to eat and to have shelter, but also to go to Iraq and Iran and Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and places like, well, Egypt, of course, and Peru and Bolivia. It's pretty amazing. Applesauce, thank you for the views. Yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll bring you guys over here for a moment because there's more to see over here. But again, just look at that. That is very significant right there. Of course, many of you will recognize the bags. There's a bird holding what looks like the world. There's a scorpion, and there is another bird and more birds. Anyway, looks like possibly wheat around there. I don't know. Parts of this pillar, which, by the way, again, is pillar 43 in enclosure D, have been covered up for quite some time, and they recently uncovered it again. So I really appreciate them actually allowing people to see it again. Press for Truth says, more thumbs up are needed. Click the button, folks. I appreciate that, and I agree. Press like if you haven't already. Pressing like definitely helps it get into the algorithm. My phone is down to 20% battery now for some reason, so it was full when I started, but whatever, I won't complain. I'm happy to be here. This is amazing. Truly amazing site. Let me get you guys closer to a few of these pillars, because you'll notice there's the oldest part, but over here on a higher level are more pillars. And they're still excavating a lot of this. Again, this is one of the most incredible sites in the world, and about 75% is said to still be underground. Look at that. Amazing. Let's see. Zara Drew says, need some zzz. It is 4:35 a.m. in New York. Been up all night. I understand. I completely understand. It is late over there. I am live we're in the middle of the night in most places. So, but I mean, it's daytime here, so I had to go live. And I figured it'd be cool to go live from Gobekli Tepe, because who else goes live at Gobekli Tepe? I haven't seen it, so I thought it would be worth it. And I'm using up a lot of data, but it's so worth it here. Anyway. They seem to also be, there seems to be also someone else filming a documentary here, which is interesting. Some TV cameras. Anyway, it's a very important site. It's good to see it getting the acknowledgement it gets. Let's see, I got one comment about the handbags. Marlon B says, are there handbags imagery on each of the pillars there? No, there isn't on each, but there is on this one, and there might be more. We don't know, because like, again, about 75% of the site is still underground. Who runs the excavation? Asked Josie Louder. I think at this point it's probably the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. That's from as far as I've been able to tell. I can't say 100% who exactly runs it. But yeah, I would think so. Klaus Schmidt died in 2014, unfortunately. It may rest in peace, and he's done most of the most extensive work at the site. And since then, I believe the government took over the excavation. Hence the massive pillars going into the site that have destroyed some of the site. But I'm happy to see tourism here. I'm happy to see the excitement that people have for the site. It's pretty windy here. I'm trying to shield the wind the best I can. But there you have it. we are 45 minutes into the video, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start walking up to the top part, and I'll end the video once I get there. Stig Martin says my birthday is today. Well, happy birthday, Stig. Hope you have a great day. Harrison RM sent Australian $20. You're the hero of the live chat, Harrison. I appreciate it. Again, those super chats are hugely helpful. Make a world of difference here at WHAM and help us get to these places. Now, this place was covered by a donor who is awesome and helped me out huge, paid for the trip here, and that's why I'm here right now. And it was because he watched one of the videos and ended up deciding that he would like to help me out with this, and he's really significantly helped me get this much needed work done. So I have to give a big shout out to Fred, and he's been traveling with me across Turkey, and it's been quite incredible. It's just been an amazing experience in general. Once I finish the live stream, I got to go down because I got to take another picture. Actually, I'm going to grab Josh Friedman here. By the way, go subscribe to Josh Friedman on YouTube. He's been a huge help to me here. Bumped into him, we met up in Istanbul and came down here together, and he does really great work. So I want you guys to go give him a subscribe and all that. I'm gonna catch up with him backtracking here. But again, for those just tuning in, this is Gobekli Tepe as of yet, as far as the mainstream goes. Josh, I would like you to give everyone your YouTube so people can go subscribe to you.
It's just my name, Josh Friedman. That's spelled F-R-I-E-D-M-A-N. That's the channel, and the URL is youtube.com/Josh Friedman FMP.
Awesome. So I'm gonna get going right away. I'm gonna grab my camera here for a moment and get a couple more pictures, and then I'll walk up with you guys up to the higher level. I just saw something while I was talking with you guys that I totally forgot to photograph and take video of. And we cannot have that, can we? It's important that I document as much of this as possible, because I don't know when the next time I'll be able to come back here is, but I do hope that I get to come back here, because it's an incredible site. And it needs to be explored and known, and people need to visit this incredible place. Let me just get over here a bit. Here we go. Okay. Hold up one moment. I'm putting this down. This is kind of weird, but I'm putting this down for a moment.
Sinan, başlıyoruz. Arkadaşları da çağıralım.
Evet, orada Büşra'nın daha az şeyi var.
Sorry guys, I'm just taking a few quick pictures before I head upstairs. I want to be able to get this relief properly. It's live. What am I going to do? And one over here. Couple more. There we go. All right. And now put your hands on the floor so we know that this is live. Hands on the floor. All right. Where'd Josh go? I need to hand back my camera. I'll find him. But again, for those just tuning in, I'm here at Gobekli Tepe, one of the most amazing sites I've seen. We're gonna run upstairs real quick. Yeah, perfect. It's live. What do you want? Okay, so let's head up to the upper part of the structure where they found the newer pillars, the newer T-shaped pillars. I think I got what I need here, but I'm gonna be wishing I got something later when I get home. What are you gonna do? It's a pretty extensive site. I mean, it's not that big, but it's extensive if you consider every time like I said, every time I walked around, I'd find another little thing pop up. I'm just looking up the comments to see what people said while I was running around taking pictures and you guys were sitting on the ground. I appreciate you guys sticking around if you have. Saw a few people took off. Velvet Thunder said, are you too far away to visit the ancient city of Troy? Yeah, so Troy's on the west coast below Istanbul. It's actually pretty close to Istanbul in general. And I am interested in that, but I don't have time, I don't think, but I'm gonna try to have time. I'm gonna try to see what I can do here. I'm bringing you guys over here to check out this view. You can see there's like a TV show or something being shot over there. And there is the exhibit, the main exhibit. And, oh, pretty amazing. I'm doing what I usually do. I prefer the dirt to the walkway. It's not a very good walkway, honestly. It's like, oh, all right. So, again, for those just tuning in, I'm here at Gobekli Tepe, near Sanliurfa, by the Syrian border. A place I never thought I'd go or climb in tunnels like I did in Derekuyu, but it's an incredible place, and it's one of the most amazing sites I've ever seen. It's just an amazing country in general. You can see the site itself right there. And I'm not crazy about the overhang, and it has messed with the structure of the original structure of Gobekli Tepe, but I'm just gonna try and be positive today and be happy that people are actually interested. There's a lot of tourism here, and I'm gonna show you guys some more pillars that are a bit newer, that are higher up here on the hill. You see that? Now I can't get over this fence, so I can't get closer, but you can see pillars here. I'm gonna zoom in a bit. And you can see another one down there, which we kind of saw from the other angle before. Face of the Sun says, have a good time in Turkey, dude. Thank you very much. I am having a great time. This is definitely a place I will be returning to, but I got other places to go first, but nonetheless, this was truly awesome. You could see they're still slowly excavating the site. I don't know if I can see anything in there, but they seem to think there's something there. And again, ground penetrating radar has been used in this area that shows that about 75% of the site is still, to this day, underground. Some people are mentioning that I might be standing on part of the structure. Possibly. I mean, you can only imagine there's stuff under here. I mean, it's all around, but up here would be newer stone circles. I don't know where a bunch of them are that I've seen on Google Earth. I'm trying to put myself on Google Earth and figure it out, but anyway, my phone's about to die, guys. I gotta go. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Next time. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media at Gobekli Tepe. Find the truth, be the change, and thank you so much for those super chats. It means a lot to me.